Hello, good afternoon, good morning. Currently looking at the northeast wildfire smoke that is intermixing with all of this weather and cloud coverage. But the smoke is still there, and anything that's not over land isn't going to come back in radar. For example, all the red is smoke. You can see it over in Nova Scotia, coming over down to Boston right here. The storm kind of took a freak turn after it hit that smoke structure that was in the Bay of Maine on the 28th. All this red, though, we can only see when it's over land. So all this in the sea, the Bay of Maine, going out to the Atlantic, we won't see that. I don't see any other smoke coming to the area from over Montreal. So it looks like a lot of that northeast smoke is going out to sea and being pulled out. And it's all going towards two tropical storms, one become a hurricane as of Tuesday. This Tuesday. This is as much smoke as you think it is. That is all along the northeast from Delaware, New Jersey, Rhode Island. That's all smoke. Getting pulled like taffy in bands. But it doesn't do anything on its own, so the smoke doesn't return to any certain shape. It just wants to stick together. It gets worse over Nova Scotia now that this is going over Nova Scotia again. That's might see more air quality alerts in Nova Scotia again. Smoke's tightening up into a squall line over the northeast. From Virginia Beach to Boston to Maine, Nova Scotia. It's a lot of smoke. Unless it's pulled any further, this is where it's going to sit. The smoke doesn't move on its own. So all these storms keep leaving huge amounts of smoke that get deposited over populated areas over time as it falls. It's especially worrying up here. Sure, I'd see smoke if I were to look at the map. More smoke up here over Newfoundland. Dust coming off Africa's continent. That's a lot of dust. That is a lot of dust. That makes waves in the air that turn into tropical storms this season. That dust gets traded back and forth with us. But we normally don't trade smoke. Speaking of smoke, it looks like there's some new fires burning and Quebec. I really hope not. But it is looking like more fires are beginning to burn out east of Canada, while the fires in the west still burn powerfully. Testing. Change, so good. This is border of Quebec. Those look like new fires. This can get out of control very quickly, as it already has been, but even worse, as Canada doesn't seem to have fire seasons anymore. It's just all year long. But over 10 million acres burned so far this year. Now the smoke is beginning to come up. This is a lot of smoke. That's a lot of smoke coming up. Plus some big fires coming up in Quebec. I have to look at those later. Coming over to Yellowknife, we've been looking at the air quality worsening in Yellowknife to Fort McMurray. The Wood Buffalo National Park fires are extreme. Burning. And putting out tons of carbon and aerosolized particles in the air. But Yellowknife is up here, capital. Now has the worst air quality on the planet. This is not an exaggeration. I don't think anybody could survive in here if they stayed behind. These areas we've been talking about the past week with the massive evacuations that took place between Yellowknife to Hay River to Fort Smith. Anybody that did not evacuate the military had to evacuate themselves in their own power, which meant driving 738 kilometers to the nearest city on the one road with everyone else. They're not coming back home. This air quality is poison. It's Yellowknife. North of Great Slave Lake. Hay River is probably destroyed. Fort River is probably Fort Smith is probably destroyed. Because it's gone. It's all gone. Wood Buffalo National Park. Pull this window forward. Sorry about that. Taking a moment. take it a moment. Why it went to July? Okay. Let's make a time lapse of this area. With Buffalo National Park. Of the last couple of weeks, the fire's been raging. This is where all the smoke is coming from that comes into the northeast, the Bay of Maine. Everything, the past 3 months of smoke are mostly all from these fires burning throughout Alberta and Northern Territories. Get caught up in the jet stream that end up over the contiguous United States. Go back one frame. Many new starts, new fires. Quickly merging into one mega fire each. You can see each plume indicates they were... Many became one. This was on the 16th. Big fires. A lot of smoke. See many fires over here that are just starting. Over in the northeast side, got a couple of fires burning right here. Some fires burning right here. A lot of dead fires. Zombie fires. Just what are they even scraping by on? They burn deep. That's terrible. East side, these are some pretty terrible runs in previously burnt areas that are extending the fire perimeter. A lot of wispy smoke. Yellowknife, the worst air quality on the planet. Can't even see anything. This smoke is lethal. Lethal. This was a smoke structure above Nova Scotia and Maine right before it was hit by that terrible storm, that the weather system that came up from the east coast. Hard to get a good look at Yellowknife, but I will with try. Also look at Fort Smith, which I'm pretty sure these are gone. And the smoke is so bad that it's so hot as the ash falling down. 700 degrees would ignite buildings. Material. Freeze. Keep reignite. This is smoke that's over north of Maine, this New Brunswick area. That's clear smoke. That's that bluish steel hue we're looking for. And that's weather down here, mixed with a little bit of smoke. some fires in Quebec, if I can get a look at them. Let's look at Australian fires. Nah, those are, who knew? I just looked at those last night.